Tyran Jackson, step away from the van.
What is this? What are you doing?
We got a complaint about packages you've been pulling off your route.
I haven't taken anything. I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
This operation had been in the works for 9 days. Tyran Jackson, a 4-year FedEx driver in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, walked right into it. By the time this shift ends, Unit 217 on Choctaw Drive will have told investigators everything they need to know.
We found the storage unit, dude. $62,000 in merchandise.
I'm telling you, you have the wrong person. I ain't stealing nothing.
48 hours from this moment, deputies would be cutting the lock off a 10x10 storage unit on Choctaw Drive and stepping into a wall of cardboard. 70-plus victims, $62,000 in recovered merchandise. 8 months of stolen packages stacked floor to ceiling, many of them still wearing shipping labels with the names of the people he had just driven past that morning. The investigation that brought 3 deputies to this loading dock had started with a single phone call from one Baton Rouge homeowner who refused to let a missing laptop go. Before we go any further, have you ever had a package marked delivered that never showed up on your porch? Drop a comment and tell me where it happened. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now. We track these cases down every single week, and we don't let them get buried. Tyran Marquise Jackson was born in 1991 at Woman's Hospital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His mother, Renee, worked the front desk at a dental office on Florida Boulevard for 19 years. His father, Marvin, drove a concrete mixer for a regional construction outfit until a back injury in 2003 ended his career. The family lived in a small brick ranch on the north side of the city, off Plank Road, where the porch always smelled like Renee's morning coffee, and the carport was always parked under a Chevy that Marvin was always halfway through fixing. By every account from people who knew him, Tyran was a quiet kid, polite, the kind of child who held the door for older neighbors and who learned how to mow the lawn at 9 because his daddy showed him once and never had to show him again. His 3rd grade teacher at Park Elementary wrote on a report card that he was thoughtful, attentive, and kind to other children, especially the smaller ones. That phrase, kind to the smaller ones, would come up again, years later, in a letter his mother wrote to a federal judge. He attended Glen Oaks High School on the north side of the city. He played junior varsity football for 2 seasons as a defensive back. Undersized, too slow for varsity, but the kind of player who never missed a practice. His coaches remembered him as coachable, quiet in the locker room, the first one to pick up cones after drills. He graduated in 2009 with a 2.7 grade point average and no clear plan, which was, in his neighborhood, the same plan most kids his age had. He took his first job at a Raising Cane's on Airline Highway, working the drive-through window for $7.25 an hour. He stayed there 19 months. His manager wrote on his exit paperwork that he was a reliable team member with strong customer service instincts. From there, he moved to a forklift job at a beverage distributor warehouse on Choctaw Drive, the same Choctaw Drive that, 16 years later, would become the most important street in his life. He spent 4 years on that warehouse floor, loaded pallets of Coca-Cola and Sprite into delivery trucks at 4 in the morning, made $14.50 an hour by the end of it, got married in the middle of it. He met Latasha Boudreau in 2013 at a cousin's barbecue in Scotlandville. She was studying to be a dental hygienist. They moved in together within 8 months and had their first child, a daughter named Aliyah, in the spring of 2015. By every account from people who knew them in those years, Tyran was a present father. He worked the early shift specifically so he could pick Aliyah up from daycare in the afternoons. He was the parent who showed up to the recitals, the parent who packed the lunches. In 2021, Tyran applied for a job with FedEx Ground at the service center off Industriplex Boulevard. The route was simple: package handler on the night sort, then a 6-month bump up to a delivery driver position once his commercial endorsement cleared. The starting pay was $19.85 an hour. With overtime, he was clearing $52,000 a year by his 2nd year on the road. It was the most money anyone in his immediate family had ever made. His dispatch supervisor's evaluations from 2022 and 2023 described him in language that anyone who has ever managed a logistics team will recognize. punctual, customer-friendly, maintains a clean route record. One evaluation specifically noted that customers on his route had called the service center on multiple occasions to compliment his demeanor. He was the kind of FedEx driver people remembered, the kind who knew which houses had dogs and which houses had grandmothers who liked to chat. For 3 years, Tyran Jackson was a FedEx driver who had never been written up, never had a customer complaint, never short on a manifest. He was, by any measurable internal metric, exactly the kind of driver the company wanted on its road. The trust customers placed in that brown and orange uniform every single morning had a face on his route, and that face was his. That trust was about to be tested. FedEx Ground delivers more than 10 million packages every single day across the United States. The Baton Rouge Service Center off Industriplex Boulevard processes between 60,000 and 70,000 of those packages on any given weekday. The building itself is a vast, fluorescent-lit concrete shell with a quarter-mile of conveyor belts running through the center, sorting parcels by zip code, by weight, by route number. Drivers arrive between 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning. They load their own vans, they scan their own manifests, they drive their own routes. The scanner gun is the heart of the system. Every parcel that goes onto a van gets scanned at the dock. Every parcel that comes off the van gets scanned at the customer's address. The scanner pings the FedEx network with a GPS coordinate, a timestamp, and a status code. Delivered. Left at front door. Signed by recipient. The scanner does not know if the driver actually walked the package up to the porch. The scanner only knows what the driver tells it, and that was the gap. Drivers were trusted to scan honestly because the system was built on volume, not on suspicion. With 70,000 packages moving through the building every day, the company could not afford to second-guess every scan. The internal audit triggers were broad: driver miles, fuel usage, total stops completed, customer complaints. As long as a driver kept his complaint count low and his stop count high, the system left him alone. Tyran Jackson's route covered the eastern stretch of East Baton Rouge Parish, Garden District, Mid-City, Sherwood Forest. The kind of neighborhoods where front porches sat back from the street, where doorbell cameras were common but not universal, where most people were at work between 9 and 5. He knew which houses had cameras. He knew which streets had a sight line from the road. He knew which customers were home during the day and which were not. He had, over 3 years on that route, built a perfect mental map of every blind spot. The first package he stole, by his own later admission, was a pair of Beats headphones bound for an address on Jefferson Highway. It was a Tuesday in late April of 2025. He scanned the package as delivered at 11:47 a.m. He never got out of the van. He drove the parcel back to the service center at the end of his shift, transferred it from his van to his personal car in the employee lot, and brought it home. He listed it on Facebook Marketplace that night for $140. It sold in 11 hours. He later told investigators that he had not planned it, that his transmission had been making a noise for 2 weeks, and the mechanic had quoted him $1,800, and Latasha was already short on the daycare payment that month. He told them the headphones had been sitting near the back door of the van, and he had simply not picked them up when he picked up the rest of the stop. He told them he had told himself, that one time, that he would pay it back somehow. He never paid it back. He stole again 4 days later. The second theft was a small unmarked box from an address on Highland Road. Inside, when he opened it that night in his garage, was a Movado watch worth $620 retail. It sold on OfferUp within 48 hours for $350 cash. The third theft was a Nintendo Switch. The fourth was a pair of Bose speakers. By the end of May 2025, he had pulled 14 packages off his route. By the end of July, he had pulled 46. The pattern was specific. He never stole from the same address twice. He never stole the largest packages. Those got tracked too closely. He targeted small, high-value parcels from electronics retailers, jewelers, and watch brands. Apple, Best Buy, Movado, Bose. He learned to read the shipping labels on the dock during morning load-in. He learned to recognize the brand markings on the boxes themselves. He learned which return address zip codes corresponded to which kinds of merchandise. And he learned the storage unit trick. In June of 2025, he rented Unit 217 at the public storage facility on Choctaw Drive, the same Choctaw Drive where he had once loaded pallets of Sprite at 4 in the morning. The unit cost him $89 a month. He paid for it on a prepaid debit card he had purchased at a gas station with cash. His name was on the lease, but the contact phone number he provided was a text now burner he had set up on his work tablet. He stopped bringing stolen packages home. He started routing them straight from the van to the unit at the end of every shift. The escalation followed its own gravity. Spring became summer. Summer became fall. The frequency increased. The dollar amounts grew. Latasha noticed he was buying things: a new flat screen for the bedroom, a set of rims for the Tahoe, a Coach bag for her birthday. But every time she asked, he had an answer. Over time, a side hustle reselling sneakers, a friend who was paying back an old loan. She stopped asking. His FedEx co-workers noticed nothing. His supervisor noticed nothing. The internal complaint system flagged a small uptick in package not received reports for his route over the summer of 2025, but the volume was below the threshold that would have triggered an internal investigation. Customers who called were told their packages would be retraced. They were issued shipper-side refunds. They moved on with their lives. The customers who lost less than $200 typically did not even bother to call. One who did was a 68-year-old retired schoolteacher on Goodwood Boulevard, whose grandson's birthday gift, a pair of Apple AirPods, never arrived. She called the service center 3 times over a 2-week period. She was told each time that the package was being investigated. She never got it back. She never got a refund either, because the shipper had marked it delivered. She told her daughter she felt foolish for trusting a tracking number. She put it out of her mind. The single phone call that ended Tyran Jackson's career came from a 34-year-old human resources manager named Brittany Castile, who lived in a brick ranch on Stanford Avenue in Baton Rouge. On the morning of February 4th, 2026, she had been waiting on a $1,500 laptop, a MacBook Pro she had ordered as a gift for her younger brother, who was about to start his second year at Southern University. The tracking number had been pinging her phone all morning. At 12:18 p.m., the status flipped from out for delivery to delivered, left at front door. She was working from home that day. She walked to the front door within 30 seconds of the notification. There was no package on the porch. There was no FedEx van on the street. There was no driver in sight. She checked the side door. She checked the garage. She walked to the end of her driveway and looked both directions down Stanford Avenue. Nothing. She pulled up her Ring doorbell footage. She scrubbed back through the entire morning. From 8 a.m. through 1 p.m., not a single FedEx vehicle had appeared on Stanford Avenue. No truck had stopped. No driver had walked up her porch. The notification said the package had been delivered to her front door. Her camera said no one had ever come. Brittany Castile did something most customers in her situation do not do. She did not just call FedEx and accept the refund. She did not just chalk it up to a porch pirate or a routing error. She drove to the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office substation on Airline Highway that same afternoon, sat down with a desk deputy, and filed a written report. She brought a USB drive containing the doorbell footage. She brought a printed screenshot of the FedEx tracking page. She brought the order receipt showing the laptop's serial number. The report landed on the desk of Detective Erica Whitfield of the Sheriff's Office Property Crimes Division on the morning of February 5th. Whitfield had spent 11 years investigating package theft, retail fraud, and storage facility burglaries in East Baton Rouge Parish. She had seen, in her career, exactly 2 patterns: opportunistic porch pirates who hit 1 or 2 houses and disappeared, and inside job theft rings that operated out of warehouses and distribution centers. Brittany Castile's doorbell footage pointed to the second category. Whitfield called the FedEx Ground Service Center on Industriplex Boulevard that same afternoon. She asked for the route assignment for the 708 U.S.C. zip code on February 4th. The dispatch supervisor pulled the manifest. The driver assigned to that route on that day, in that vehicle, had been Tyran Jackson. He had scanned the Castile package as delivered at 12:18 p.m. The GPS coordinate logged with the scan was 31 feet from her front door. Whitfield did not interview Jackson. Not yet. She did what experienced detectives do. She put him under surveillance. For 9 days between February 6th and February 14th, 2026, Detective Whitfield and a 2-deputy surveillance team followed Tyran Jackson at the end of every shift. They watched him pull out of the FedEx Service Center lot at the end of his route, between 5:30 and 6:15 p.m. They followed his white Chevy Tahoe through evening traffic on Airline Highway. They watched him stop, on 6 of those 9 days, at the public storage facility on Choctaw Drive. The surveillance footage was meticulous. They documented him entering the storage facility through the keypad gate. They documented him walking from his Tahoe carrying small parcels, sometimes 1, sometimes 3 or 4. They documented him entering and exiting Unit 217. On February 11th, a deputy with a long lens captured him carrying what was unmistakably a FedEx-branded box from the trunk of his personal vehicle into the unit at 7:04 p.m. The box had a shipping label still affixed to the side. Whitfield obtained a federal search warrant on the morning of February 16th. The warrant was based on the surveillance, the doorbell footage, the GPS scan record, and a subpoena return showing that Tyran Jackson was the leaseholder of Unit 217. At 9:42 a.m. on February 17, 2026, Detective Whitfield, 3 deputies, and a postal inspector cut the lock off Unit 217 and rolled up the door. What they found inside is the kind of scene that becomes a still image in a federal indictment. The unit was packed almost to the ceiling. Boxes were stacked in rough columns along all 4 walls and piled 3 deep across the floor. Many of them still had their original shipping labels, unmolested, addressed to specific homes on specific streets in East Baton Rouge Parish. Apple boxes, Best Buy boxes, Movado boxes, Bose boxes, a Sonos soundbar still in its original retail packaging, 3 iPads still sealed, a pair of Beats headphones in the original FedEx pouch. The inspectors counted 73 packages in the unit that day, $62,412 in recovered merchandise. Every single shipping label gave them a victim. Every single victim was someone Tyran Jackson had driven past on his route. The retired schoolteacher on Goodwood Boulevard was on a label. The grandson's AirPods were in a small box near the back wall, unopened. The phone evidence came next. A subpoena to Text Now returned the burner account. A subpoena to Facebook returned a marketplace seller history. A subpoena to OfferUp returned 341 completed listings dating back to April 2025. The buyer messages were preserved. The PayPal and Cash App transaction histories were preserved. The dollar amounts already resold before the storage unit raid were estimated by federal prosecutors at an additional $38,000 to $45,000. A representative text exchange pulled from the burner phone. "Yo, this MacBook still available, bro?" "Yeah, still got it. 850 firm, new in box." "How you get these so cheap, though?" "My boy works at a warehouse. Don't worry about it." And another, from October. "This came in a FedEx box with somebody else's name on it. Just throw the box away, bro. Watch is real." "Aight." The smoking gun was already in the storage unit. The text messages were the nail in the coffin. At 6:34 a.m. on the morning of February 18th, 2026, Tyran Jackson clocked in at the FedEx Ground Service Center on Industriplex Boulevard for what he believed would be a normal Wednesday shift. He was at his usual loading position on the dispatch counter, scanning the morning's manifest into his handheld, when Detective Erica Whitfield and 2 East Baton Rouge Sheriff's deputies walked through the side door of the dispatch office. The dispatch supervisor saw them first. She stepped back from the counter. Whitfield walked up to Jackson directly. He did not look up from his manifest until she spoke his name. "Tyran Jackson, Detective Whitfield, East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. I need you to set the scanner down and come with me, please. What's this about? I think you know what it's about. Set the scanner down. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm about to start my route. Mr. Jackson, we executed a search warrant yesterday morning at Unit 217 on Choctaw Drive. We need you to step away from the counter. The color went out of his face. The scanner gun, which he had been holding in his right hand, dropped about an inch and stopped. His shoulders pulled forward. His left hand went to the edge of the counter and stayed there. The dispatch supervisor would later describe his expression to investigators as, like a man who had just been told someone died. I want a lawyer. That's your right. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back. He turned around. He placed his hands behind his back. He did not say another word. The handcuffs went on at 6:41 a.m. Two co-workers and the dispatch supervisor watched as he was walked out the side door of the dispatch office and across the loading dock to a waiting unmarked sedan. He did not look at any of them. The scanner gun stayed on the counter where he had set it down. The other drivers on the floor that morning would later say it was the quietest dispatch office had ever been. Nobody spoke for almost 2 minutes after the door closed. Then the supervisor walked back to her desk, picked up the phone, and called the regional security office. A federal grand jury for the Middle District of Louisiana indicted Tyran Jackson on March 11, 2026. The indictment contained 3 counts: 1 count of theft from interstate shipment under 18 U.S.C., paragraph 659, 1 count of wire fraud under 18 U.S.C., paragraph 1343, and 1 count of conspiracy. The state of Louisiana filed a parallel charge under LARS 1467 for theft of more than $25,000, which the district attorney later agreed to defer pending federal disposition. His defense attorney, a federal public defender named Marcus Beauchamp, filed a motion to suppress the storage unit search on the grounds that the surveillance had been conducted without a separate warrant. The motion was denied. Beauchamp filed a second motion, arguing that the GPS scan data was not properly authenticated. That motion was also denied. By early May 2026, with the storage unit photographs, the burner phone records, the offer-up transaction history, and 73 named victim statements all stacked on the prosecution's table, Beauchamp advised his client to take a plea. Tyran Jackson pleaded guilty on May 22, 2026, to 1 count of theft from interstate shipment and 1 count of wire fraud. The plea agreement carried a recommended sentence of 30 to 42 months in federal prison and full restitution. The sentencing hearing was held on August 14, 2026, in the federal courthouse on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, before United States District Judge Helena Marquez. The courtroom was full. 11 of his victims had submitted written impact statements. 3 of them spoke in person. The retired schoolteacher from Goodwood Boulevard was the second to speak. She was 69 years old by then. She told the court that the AirPods had been a birthday gift for her grandson, who had asked for them for 2 years. She told the court that she had used 3 weeks of her fixed income to pay for them. She told the court that she had told her grandson, the day they did not arrive, that she would replace them next month, and that next month had become 2 months, and that she had eventually told him she was sorry, but it was not going to happen. She told the court that she had felt foolish and old and unprotected. She told the court that the worst part was not the money. The worst part was that she had waved at the FedEx driver every morning for 3 years, because that was how she had been raised, to wave at people doing their jobs. Judge Marquez delivered her sentencing statement before pronouncing the term. She addressed Jackson directly. Mr. Jackson, you wore a uniform that represented one of the most basic forms of trust in modern life. People sent their belongings, their gifts, their birthday presents, their tools for school, their medications, into a system that depends on the honesty of the person at the end of the line. That person was you. For 73 families on your route, that person betrayed them.